Evening, everybody. Hello, I'm Charlie Tolhurst, and welcome to the Charlie Tolhurst Show for today, the 1st of October. In the first show of the October, we're only a couple of months now away from Christmas, and yeah, if you ask me, things will get cooler. Things are getting cooler right now, but the news stories are getting hotter. I'm joined by Labour Party supporter Zach James around all the latest news. Hello, Zach.
Hi, Charlie. Hello, mate.
Right, we're going to start off with some major news this week, and we're going to turn all the way over now to the European conflict between Russia and Ukraine. Russian invasion of Ukraine of 2022 now entering its 8th month, and perhaps the biggest escalation so far of the conflict. President Putin of Russia announcing the illegal annexations of Luhansk, Donetsk, Kherson and Zaporizhia the other day. That equates to 15% of Ukraine's territory. This is the same move he done to annex Crimea in 2014. And this is going to be seen in the eyes of the world and the West as condemnation to Russia, violations to the UN Charter and the United Nations Code of Conduct. This is an absolutely vile attempt by Vladimir Putin once again to seize control of Ukraine and put himself on the map. Let me guess, he wants to be the great king that Tsars was all those years ago to try and rebuild the Soviet Union back to its former glory. But he's losing troops in Ukraine, and Putin thinks that doesn't care to him. The war is victory for Russia, when in fact it will go the other way for Ukraine, and victory for them will mean hopefully a swift movement into NATO membership. They have applied for that the other day. Updates on that will happen in the coming weeks. But Putin knows now, with NATO membership for Ukraine coming, it could tempt the Russian president into even more crazy gimmicks that he might want to come. Possibly nuclear, we're not sure yet. Zach, what do you make to these past 24 hours in Moscow and also out on the battlefields in Ukraine?
Yeah, let's start off first of all with the fact that Russia has illegally annexed 4 areas that held sham referendums. I should say sham because they are sham. They were illegal. They were undemocratic in many ways. I mean, do you really believe the figure that apparently, was it in or somewhere like that, that 99.9% apparently of people voted to join the Russian Federations? No, I don't really. It's more of a laughing stock to think that you actually believe that figure, when probably a lot of people in Kherson have probably don't support this, but were forced to vote yes by Russian police and areas that in areas in Russia control. So yeah, it's a damning situation. But one thing you have to say as well is that just because the 4 areas has been annexed by Russia illegally doesn't mean that they're going to be in control of those areas. Let's just say that for one certain. I mean, Kherson has been a threat to been threatened from the Russians for a few weeks now, given the fact that Ukraine have made slow but steady gains outside Kherson and surrounding Kherson, and is slowly creeping up there as well. Donetsk and Luhansk are areas where, I mean, Russian have been controlling quite a lot of areas there. But once again, like I said, Ukrainians are making some quite interesting progress there as well in their counteroffensive. They started with Kharkiv. Now they're coming into, I think it's Luhansk, the oblast there as well. One area that they have taken back from the Russians today actually is the city of Liman, which was encircled by the Ukrainians yesterday, and Russia has had to surrender or withdraw from their areas there today. So if you think about it, just because Putin has annexed areas does not change the situation on the battlefield. Quite frankly, the fact is that Ukraine are actually making gains in key counteroffensives. And yeah, they're the ones that are controlling the battlefield in some areas. They're in fact regaining some of it as well. I mean, I think from what I've seen, that the Ukraine's next target is to get back to areas like Severodonetsk, for example, from Russia, where that is. I mean, Zaporizhia as well is not even that area is not even controlled fully by the Russians, and yet they've held an illegal referendum with illegal sham results as well. None of the major countries are recognising it, unsurprisingly, and Putin can control the narratives that everything he's doing, everyone supports, but they don't. Seriously, they don't. They're just being, they're being they're showing a narrative that they're being supported, but they're not. In the real world, you look at what's happening, and there's a lot of less support than what Putin thinks there is for some of these some of these annexations. Now, he's obviously threatened this week, saying that any attack in these newly annexed areas is going to be an attack on Russia. But and obviously he's got out the nuke card again, potentially as well, mass weapons of mass destruction. But again, I don't think we're anywhere near close to that. I do not think we're anywhere near close to what military and intelligence officials have said worldwide, that we're not even close to that situation yet. So Putin is just calling the bluff. And again, this is a desperate situation for Putin because he knows he's losing, and yet he needs a message to excuse the reasons for what he's doing. So at the end of the day, no matter how much regions are annexed, they are technically Ukraine territory, no matter what. Crimea is technically Ukraine territory, but it's controlled by the Russians because those idiots annexed it. And no matter what, it goes back to what Putin said in 2014 when he annexed Crimea, that he said at the time that he was not interested in Ukraine territory. It obviously, 8 years later, we know that was a bunch of crap at the end of the day. So yeah, it's been another whatever narrative Russia wants to hold on this as well, in terms of the annexation and the establishments of new regions in Russia as part of the Russian Federation. At the end of the day, they're losing control of the regions that they're annexing, and I guess soon enough or later it'll back in Ukrainian hands.
Yeah, I have to say, Zach, when you see a picture when you see that picture of Vladimir Putin celebrating the annexations with his separatist leaders, you think to yourself, wait a minute, this guy's a hero, when actually you see this news on the bottom that I'm going to read out hours earlier. Russian forces launched a missile attack on people waiting in cars in Zaporizhia. I think at least 26 people were killed and about 58 were injured in that. It was an absolute vile crime. It was a war crime, quite frankly. Vile attack, absolutely condemned condemned worldwide. It's just basically a brazen attack to wipe out civilian casualties, and I have to say it's absolutely reckless in my view that Russia are doing this, and you see all these wicked and quite evil war crimes. I think, Zach, to be honest with you, Putin is following the exact path Adolf Hitler followed when he took Nazi Germany to annex certain territories of other countries in the Second World War.
Oh, absolutely. But at the end of the day, obviously communication has advanced quite a lot. Technology, communication has advanced quite a lot. To the ways, to the point is that, no one's ever going to recognize it. No one's ever going to accept it. And it's unlikely, unlike what Germany did, that Russia is ever going to be able to keep this territory in their control. You'll probably find it'll be, the Ukrainians will get this back sooner than Russia can keep it, in my view. And the point is about Hitler is obviously he did annex lots of territories as well in many areas. I was actually watching a video on this the other day. Actually, I was going back to his time in history, and to realise that Germany annexed France and certain amounts of areas are there. And he tried to annex the UK, and with all their bombs and all that sort of area. But again, like I said, with the way modern technology and communication is advancing, nobody recognised it, nobody will accept it, apart from the Russians. And at the end of the day, more sanctions are going to probably be imposed on Russia, and Ukraine will get this territory back quicker than what Germany could, ever imagine in the World War II.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because the news coming through today, like as you said, they're going through that Liman, they've lost control of that, or the Ukrainians are coming back for Linman. It's just been announced that Russian forces have actually surrendered there.
Yeah.
Chechnya held Moscow should consider low-yield nuclear weapons in Ukraine. The Nord Stream 2 pipeline no longer is leaking. That's apparently now been fixed. Germany's Defense Minister Christian Lambrecht made a surprise visit to Ukraine the other day. If you actually saw, guys, on social media the other day, Volodymyr Zelensky isn't wearing a suit. Yes, now he has been known for wearing all types of casual clothing during the war. The other day, it was emerged that the Ukrainian president actually donned a hoodie. Quite interestingly, Volodymyr Zelensky actually wore a hoodie the other day, and it was on his social media pages. "I am Ukrainian" was on his hoodie. I mean, like, just see this picture here of him wearing an I am Ukrainian hoodie. Like, I can't get it up for you at the moment, but he was wearing it on doing one of his like social media addresses the other day. Zach, what do you make to that? Because clearly, like, throughout the war, he's been really like just sitting around in like casual clothing, whilst the other world leaders are wearing suits in that.
I can't blame him, to be fair. You know, he's at war. He doesn't have to dress up smart and everything like that to be, to be a statesman. He can just dress up in typical Ukrainian fashion. He made that suit his own sort of thing, and we've gotten to know him and what he's worn and everything like that. Yeah, he hasn't had a shave for a long, long time. You have to say about one thing about that since the war started. But it just shows the hard work he's putting in. You don't need to you don't need to shave. You don't need to put a suit on to show you how much he's working, how far. He really has been out there at the moment. So yeah, he's certainly, he's certainly been a man of decency, a man of honor, a man of heroism throughout his past 8 months, and he's going to still continue to be like that long into the future.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. So right now, guys, we're going to play for you the news that broke the other day of Vladimir Putin announcing the breakaway regions in Ukraine. And this news, guys, may contain some distressing images that we're about to play for you now. This isn't to do with Crimea. This isn't to do with that. It is to do with announcing annexations of Ukraine. Have a listen to this report. And by the way, guys, this report may contain some distressing images, as I said earlier. Have a listen to this. This was Putin making an illegal annexation speech.
Vladimir Putin knows how to put on a show, but few will prove quite so consequential as today's ceremony, set in the grandeur of the Kremlin St. George's Hall. The puppet leaders of 4 Ukrainian territories sat obediently, as with a few words their master ended 30 years of independence.
People have made their choice, a clear choice. Today we are signing agreements on the admission of the Donetsk People Republic, the Luhansk People Republic, the Zaporizhia region, and the Kherson region into Russia.
And there was another veiled threat to use nuclear weapons to defend his newly claimed lands.
The United States is the only country in the world to use nuclear weapon twice, destroying the Japanese cities of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Actually, they set a precedent.
A few strokes of the pen and the map of Europe was redrawn, though no one outside these walls will recognize the border and compare the swagger in Moscow to the dead silence in Ukraine. Broken only by a mobile phone call that will never be answered. Someone's brother or son, someone's mother or daughter. Among 24 killed here, a gathering point for civilian convoys, yet more innocent bloodshed in a war of horrors.
These people have been waiting to cross into Russian-controlled territory. Nothing unusual in that. Some have been visiting relatives here on Ukrainian-controlled land. Others were taking humanitarian aid and hoping to return with family members to what they considered a place of safety. But of course, there is no safe place here.
A woman sobs in shock moments after 4 missiles struck. Another who tried to run after the first explosion was cut down by the second. Katia survived because she left the convoy to check her paperwork.
Those people who were still sitting in their cars, they had no chance to escape.
You must count yourself very lucky indeed today.
Yes, I was lucky. I was very lucky.
Russia denies responsibility. Ukraine calls it terror. Tonight, President Zelensky denounced the annexation and has applied for NATO membership. But as they mourn their dead here, in Moscow they celebrate. The contrast could not be shown.
Thank you there to Volodymyr Zelensky, Ukrainian president, also the report there from ITV, talking as well on the Russian annexation of Crimea. I've just had a comment from Ukraine, so I just had a comment there from CJW 2006. That's actually someone I used to go to Gateway 97.8 with Callum Woodbury, who is just tuning in tonight. And thank you for posting your comments. Please post the comments below. I will respond to that in a minute. I just want to say that I am promoting free speech on my show tonight, which I didn't actually get to do at Gateway. So I'm happy to promote free speech on my show. But Zach, that image that I just saw there of that quite horrifying missile attack by the Russians, it's clear that Putin needs to take responsibility for them, doesn't he? Oh, Zach's on mute. I do apologise.
Oh, yeah, that's sorry about that.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, absolutely, Charlie. I mean, obviously we saw another quite horrible and quite barbaric scene this week with a missile being struck on lots of tourists in the area as well, motor vehicle as well in Ukraine. I mean, that it killed at least, I think it was 23 of it as well. It was a humanitarian convoy in the city of Zaporizhia. That's what happened as well. I think about killed 25 that were killed in that city. Hundreds, a dozen more was injured as well. And that convoy had been preparing to leave the Ukrainian territory controlled by Kiev to its relative and deliver supplies in an area occupied by Russia as well. And this is obviously on the morning of the announcements of an annexation. So this is obviously clear the message going around that obviously, you know, look what we can do, look what we can cause as well. But it's another example of Putin's Russia calling death and barbaric behavior as well. So yeah, it's a terrible situation. What happened there? It's another diabolic one where the Russian regime is killing Ukrainian civilians in their controlled areas.
Justin, as well, we've just had some more news in as well from the war in Ukraine. A Russian airbase has been attacked in Crimea. Blasts rock a Russian airbase in Crimea that's just come through right now on the report from The Sun. This was a nearby beach. Horrified tourists watched the explosion. This comes as Putin's troops were forced to put out this occupied city. It was actually a Ukrainian, was actually pointed ahead in Sevastopol, claims a military aircraft blew up on landing. So it seems like there a Russian, Ukrainian attack happened there. So all I can say is we'll keep you updated on that regarding the news. Moving on now to more news now, coming on to Hurricane Ian now on my show. Now, Hurricane Ian was a Category 4 hurricane, should I say the highest level hurricane when it reached wind speeds peaking at nearly 155 miles an hour. And it was very close to being a Category 5 hurricane, but reached landfall in Florida as a Category 4 already last week, destroyed much of Cuba to ruins. Florida got hit pretty heavily. Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, was given a humanitarian response to this crisis. And yeah, more on that later on my show. But Zach, what do you have to say about Hurricane Ian? Because surely this tested the Florida governor to the ability, but also many other areas of Florida.
Yeah, no doubt about it. This has been a devastating weather event that's happened in Florida, probably the worst one in many years. 145-mile-an-hour winds, Category 4 hurricane, hitting many parts of northern Florida. Some areas of Orlando was affected. We've seen Brown County as well. Quite a lot of their areas as well, Palm County as well, should I say, for the effect as well. But the latest from that now is there is at least 30 dead from the hurricane through the last couple of days. There's been about 1.7 million homes that are out of power and have been cut off from the electricity grid altogether. Lots of businesses are left with ruins as well. The number of dead is probably going to be bigger than the 30 that's been reported so far as well. But yeah, this has been a devastating impact as well. There's been lots of neighborhoods that still flooded in Florida as well. Some were like up, the flood levels are up higher than an overall car could the size of a car. So yeah, it's been a lot of very severe weather with winds, heavy rain. Lots of people still are missing as well. It's now hit South Carolina with 85-mile-an-hour winds. There's been a lot of flooding there as well. Obviously, it's toned down a little bit because of the onshore winds. But yeah, it's caused a lot of danger as well, and it's caused a lot of problems as well. Lots of money is going to be wasted as well, having to repair all these options as well. But yeah, it's been a disastrous time in the Florida for many people in there as well, who have been in the footsteps of a massive hurricane and a terrible storm that's affected their lives, their businesses, and just many things about it. So all the thoughts with the people of Florida, and lots of thoughts and thanks to all those who volunteered to save quite a lot of people as well. We've got to commend them for doing their job. Look at that. I mean, look at this old lady here. It's incredible. Look at her. This is I can't. That's a stunning image, quite frankly. This is a 60. I think this is a 60-year-old woman. I think.
Yeah.
As well, who's just incredible. Look at that. I believe there is an animal inside that what she's holding there. I believe there is some sort of like really an animal that she obviously lives with her and everything like that, and they're having to rescue her as well onto the rescue helicopter. So this is the Coast Guard having to do that. It's a dramatic scene as well. So yeah, it's lots of thoughts and prayers with the people of Florida and South Carolina at the moment.
Yeah, it's a horrifying storm. All I can say is I'm literally, well, I can't believe what's happened. My thoughts and prayers with everyone in Florida right now. I watched some videos on YouTube of some people in like Orlando, the Tim Tracker, PC Dev, a couple of YouTubers that you can check out on YouTube of how they actually experienced like their time in Florida during the hurricane, and obviously in Orlando and Walt Disney World as well. Several Walt Disney World hotels literally, were damaged. Like, you just have a look at Hurricane Ian's damage at Walt Disney World as well, and just seeing some of the damage that's there. That's during Hurricane Ian as well. The biggest damage actually happened at Universal at Islands of Adventure. If you don't actually know where that park is, that's located next door to Studios. Islands of Adventure is at the Universal Orlando Resort, and the hurricane unfortunately hit the Jurassic Park River Adventure attraction, which I think is manufactured by Intamin. That's the whole B&M looping coaster, launch coaster, that underwater there as well after the flooding hit the lagoon. And if you see on that picture, huge hole inside the Jurassic Park River Adventure show building, that was after Hurricane Ian wrecked through Orlando and Florida. So thoughts are with all. And it was very, very interesting if you're a resident listening to all the updates from the Governor Ron DeSantis and also all these weather events, because trust me, it must have been tough if you were a citizen in Florida having to listen to all these hurricane updates. It was pretty interesting. So I'm going to play for you now a little snippet of Ron DeSantis actually doing an update on Hurricane Ian, because I want to give you guys an idea of exactly how this hurricane actually was handled, because trust me, it was pretty interesting. This was Ron DeSantis the other day saying something about Sanibel, biblical storm surge from Hurricane Ian. Have a listen to this.
In our area, Sanibel Islands, from our speech, the images are devastating. And we know that from our local agencies that there have been confirmed deaths. We don't know exactly how many. What have you heard from the local agencies about the scope of the tragedy in that sense?
Well, Sanibel is destruction. For those of you who haven't been, it's a beautiful place, really neat community, and it got hit with really biblical storm surge, and it washed away roads, it washed away structures that were not new and could withstand that. There have been a number of people that have been identified and brought off the island safely, and those efforts are ongoing. Not only with the Coast Guard has been involved with that, our USAR teams, and as well as local law enforcement. I think most people have seen the images of the bridge, the causeway going out to Sanibel, where you have destruction of that. And that's something that we obviously will rebuild, but that's not something that will happen overnight. And so most of what's being done to assist is air operations, since you can't get there on the ground. I think Kevin will probably have more boats head over there as well. But the important thing is I was able to speak to the mayor this morning, and she and her key staff did evacuate, and so they've been operating off more of the mainland in Lee County, and many people did leave Sanibel, and they did heed the call, which is good. Obviously, I think it's a very seasonal community. We're not quite in the high season yet, but I think she made the point, hey, it's Florida. More people want to be here year-round now, so you do have a contingent of people that stay there over the summer. So that's going to require a lot of effort to get that back. Because they took a huge wallop. And it's interesting. I mean, you can look in a span of like 40, 50 miles, some places that got the storm surge versus some other barrier islands, much less. And that's just kind of the way some of this goes. But those were really difficult images to see, especially just given that's a place that I've been fortunate enough to go out and have some friends and do events there in the past, and really a great part of the Southwest Florida community. But we're committed to restoring the infrastructure as needed. That is not going to be an overnight task. That is going to be something that is going to require a lot of love and care. It's going to require a lot of resources, but we're going to do it because we understand how important it is.
Thank you there to Ron DeSantis for that update. And by the way, probably hinting there at a 2024, possibly a presidential run. We don't know that in due course. Zach, do you think DeSantis has got a shot after the hurricane, or do you think there's still more to be done?
I think it's not been about party politics this week. We know for all the complaints you can have about Ron DeSantis, for all the praise and good things that you can say about him, or whatever side you're on, he's actually handled this week's events quite well, I think. Given that fact there's been a hurricane, he hasn't played to a party political base, unlike which some people would expect you to think would want to do. But no, obviously it wouldn't be appropriate to be playing politics during a hurricane. And he's managed to balance that out quite well. And in some ways, it probably benefits him doing that, because it looks in the reputation of the general public that he can rally the storm basically, and people rally around him for general just get the support the leader and all that sort of thing. So yeah, he's been fine this week. In actual words, the rest of the politics we can forget about, because we're going to be that's for another day. But for this week, and for the way he's dealt with the hurricane, I think he's done well. Got to give credit to him for that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Obviously, let's see what happens in the next few weeks, and I'm sure there'll be it'll be probably back on the stage once again with more rallies and plenty of politics coming up over the next coming weeks in America, because the midterms are coming up very soon. So look forward to that. Moving on now quickly before we move to do the sport to the news in the UK or the UK news agenda this week. Okay, now there isn't actually been that much news. Well, there's been a lot of news of your budget, interestingly, because
Oh, tell
obviously
me about it.
we've had Kwasi Kwarteng defending the government's budget plan, which I have to say, in my view, cutting taxes is important. But do you think giving money to rich people, not poor people, is okay? I mean, that's an interesting point to be making. Now, this week we had the Labour Party conference, which I'm going to get onto one of the MPs later on who deserves a nomination in my own right. But this week we saw Keir Starmer showing off his Tony Blair style of sense and style, and well, I don't know if it's a sense of style or whatever, going up there rambling on about Labour's issues of the modern era, including free breakfast clubs for schools. Can't parents make their breakfast for their children? So yes, it was pretty interesting. Now, obviously, Gary Neville did attend as well and had very close links to Keir Starmer. And Zach, what did you make to the Labour Party conference, and what can the Tories do this week?
Well, let me give you a prediction this as well. Right, so Labour Party conference this week has actually been very successful. Probably one of the most successful Labour conferences that I've seen in quite a long time. It's probably been just most successful since the Tony Blair era. That's just saying that. That's been quite a serious analysis if you think about it. There's been less booing. There's been less division within the Labour Party. There's been a few. The only thing that really have been divided about is proportional representation, which, if you think about it, is not the most biggest priority right now. Obviously, Andy Burnham did come out opposed with the income tax cuts and the top rate cuts, which is more or less aligned with the Labour position, except he wants to abolish the income tax cut from 9 to 19p, right, where the leadership, Keir, wants to keep it. But apart from that, they've been very united. And there's not been too much distractions, but although, as you said, Charlie, there has been one MP this week got himself into hot water. Rupert Huck is the MP, coming out with some rather, I think, extreme and unnecessary comments about Kwasi Kwarteng, calling I mean, I'm not going to repeat some of the stuff because it would just make us look bad on here. But yeah, some quite racist comments. She has been administratively suspended from the Labour Party, and the Labour whip has been taken off her as well. Keir Starmer called her comments racist, so that pretty much sums up the leader's view of it as well. But yeah, I think it's been quite a successful leap for Labour. The opposite cannot be said, though, for the Conservative Party. We had a few opinion polls out yesterday and today, and they are absolutely stunning, Charlie. We had the YouGov poll out, I think it was yesterday, and it was actually the other day, with a 34-point lead in the YouGov polls over a Labour lead over the Conservatives. That is the biggest one since 1998 in political opinion polls. And it's all because of the week's budget. The pound crashed this week. It got the low as 103. The markets had to come in as well. And the Bank of England had to make interventions to save the markets. I mean, the pension fund was literally going to collapse and going to liquidation. That's absolutely stunning. I cannot believe how seething I am over the week's events, Charlotte. I cannot believe how seething it is to see that the tax cuts, think about it. We're going to have tax cuts for the rich, nothing for the poor. And it looks like we're about to go into another round of austerity because the government are now going to go on to potential spending cuts over the next few months as well, which is absolutely stunning given the situation where, the poor are getting poorer, the rich are getting richer. And the priorities for the Conservative Party have been totally wrong. We had Liz Truss on Thursday do a car crash interview round, and it was an absolute car crash because she got slaughtered by a few BBC local radio presenters whilst having interviews with her. It was, honestly, it was just an appalling, diabolical spectacle of a week for Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng, who have actually started from the week of hell, quite frankly. they've got totally wrong priorities. The voters think they have as well. It's been, honestly, it's like Black Wednesday just come along again and just risen from the dead. It's stunning. It's absolutely stunning the week Conservatives have. And I think that we're going to see full divisions at Tory party conference at Birmingham from Sunday to Wednesday this week. Liz Truss has given her keynote on Wednesday. I don't even know what to expect, Charlie. Expect anything. But they are not a happy party at the moment. And it appears Liz Truss and Carly Quartin are doing this on tone deaf ears, Charlie. Absolutely. No, as well. Honestly, they've done it on tone deaf ears.
Yeah, very interesting. It's very interesting. I have to say this week's policies from Liz Truss have been very controversial, especially the one on allowing overseas workers to have like visas so they can come and work in the UK, which is not going to solve the over 30,000 migrants crossing the English Channel this year. I've been keeping an eye on that, and it's absolutely horrendous. What the hell is the government even doing? So, Ella Braverman, where are you? Make a statement in the House of Commons very soon on this, because it's getting bad. And clearly, we need to have a look at what is going to happen, not just with the budget as well, but also another key issue the government face. And this one, I think, is a very important issue. It's how can they get prices down at the pump as well. It has come down slightly, petrol, which is a good thing. But also as well, we need to look at tackling very important issues, including the online safety bill being a big issue. What can we do to help protect free speech? So that's all the latest news in the UK. Moving on now to the sport briefing now. Sorry, apologies, we are slightly behind running time because we have so much news to get through today. So we're going to move on and do the sport briefing now. Formula One headed to Singapore this weekend for the first race in a few weeks. Obviously, the Russian Grand Prix was fully suspended because of the invasion of Ukraine, the war in Ukraine at the moment. So Singapore is now the next race. And Zach, today, Max Verstappen had a disaster in qualifying, but for Charles Leclerc, pole position for the Ferrari driver.
Yeah, it was a very interesting qualifying, Charlie. No doubt about it. It was a very interesting qualifying because it actually has been raining. It was raining before qualifying, and it's on given a wet circuit and given it being nighttime and very hot conditions, it made for a very interesting qualifying. You've seen drivers like Lewis Hamilton doing very, very well for periods in Q3, nearly taking pole position today. But once we got to the crossover of going on to intermediates and then to softs, it was Leclerc that managed to power out the lap at the end of the day and put it on pole. Not all bad news for Red Bull, though. Sergio Perez was second and with a good lap as well. Only 200s behind Charles Leclerc. It was very close qualifying between the two of them, just ahead. And then there's obviously Lewis Hamilton as well. I mean, goodness me, that was a very close end as well. Third position for him. He nearly won it, got pole with some of his results today. But yeah, it was just missed out because of Leclerc's and Perez's incredible praise. Carlos Sainz was fourth. Good qualifying for Alonso. Fifth position. He is very good in these wet conditions. And he's great. He's great in these wet conditions. He's got the pace. He's obviously got calm and confidence. And a great result for Alpine in fifth position as well. Norris had a good qualifying sixth. Gasly, good qualifying as well in seventh. Verstappen, what caused Verstappen's eighth position was, although he looked like he was going to take pole position on his final lap, he had to abort it because he did not have enough fuel in the car. And he needs a fuel sample to be able to start eighth position, basically. Otherwise, if he went across the line, got pole position, had no fuel sample, he would have been disqualified from qualifying. So he had to start eighth position. Ninth was Kevin Magnussen, 10th was Tsunoda. George Russell, poor qualifying in 11th position.
Yeah, he's had a brake issue, but what I heard, braking balance.
Yeah, problems with the brakes, which meant he didn't get a perfect lap. Then Lance Stroll was 12th, Mick Schumacher 13th, Vettel 14th. Vettel could have got to Q3 actually, had it not been for his off. Guan Yu Zhou 15th, Bottas 16th, Daniel Ricciardo 17th. Poor qualifying for Ricciardo, 18th for Ocon, another poor qualifying for him as well. Alex Albon 19th, good. The Williams is about at the back as well, 19th and 20th. Nicholas Latifi is not remaining at Williams next year as well. We don't know who's going to replace his seat, but we know that Latifi is out for as well. Big controversy over the week, over the last few days. There's rumours going around that Red Bull and Aston Martin may have broke the budget cap rules, potentially. They may have overspent over the budget cap. There's been a lot of rumours going around the paddock that these two teams have been broken the budget cap for last year and maybe this year as well. Now that is serious because there's a reason for budget caps being introduced, obviously for financial reasons, but also to level the playing field a little bit as well. And if people are, teams are breaking that budget cap, then it looks like they're getting an unfair advantage potentially as well. I know Total Wolf said something they had to made 40 people redundant because of the budget cap back in base. So if they have broken the budget cap significantly, Red Bull or Aston Martin, there's surely going to be some sort of penalties to pay, financial penalties as well. I mean, I read some sort of suggestion from the Daily Mail that means Verstappen would lose his championship from last year. I don't think that'll be the case. I think that's going to be rubbish, personally. I think more of a heavy fine for Red Bull if that's the case, or points deduction as well from last year's championship. Who knows, Charlie? Why are we still going on about 2021 in many ways? But there's been a lot happening out of the scenes. Tomorrow's going to be critical, though. It's the longest race of the season, if you think about it, because it's a slow circuit. There's a lot of laps. There's a lot of corners. It's going to be a race of determination and mentality as well. It's going to be it's going to be very hot. It's going to be very mental on the drivers. And it's going to be difficult tomorrow. A night race, the longest race of the season as well. And could well be Max Verstappen's championship this weekend. I don't think it's going to be likely to. Could he need to win it by 24 points ahead of Leclerc to gain the championship this weekend? I think it's more likely that it's going to happen next weekend in Japan, in my view. But let's get to that implication if we do get there.
Yeah, so that's all the news from Formula One. I just want to say quickly, I think the thing on the cost cap, I think you can tell Christian Horner's going to go around and defend Red Bull, and I think probably it is going to be another one of those protests that ends up failing. So let me know what you think on the comments below. Moving on now to the NASCAR Cup Series. Last round race was at Texas. I did actually watch the highlights of the race just before we came on air, so I do have a rough idea of what happened. There was a pit lane incident in the race. Someone crashed in the pit lane as well. But the Cup Series was won. And another win this season. He is going for it, isn't he? It is Tyler Reddick, again, who won the race at Texas. The Auto Park Auto Trader Echo Park Automotive 500. Joey Logano was second. Justin Haley third. Ryan Blaney fourth. Chase Briscoe fifth. Ed Jones seventh. William Byron sixth. William Byron seventh. Brad Keselowski eighth. Kyle Larson ninth. Denny Hamlin rounding out the top 10. But Zach, for some of the playoff contenders, a bad day at the office.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Let me talk about one situation that did happen on the track at Texas, Charlie. There was clashes between William Byron, I think, and Denny Hamlin. Under caution, you may have seen as well. Byron deliberately took Hamlin out of the race under caution. And now I believe William Byron is out this weekend because I believe he has some sort of issue. I think it's him with he's got an injury. I think a medical situation, which means he can't continue racing this weekend as well. I can't remember who is going to replace him, if I remember rightly, as well. Not that one. No, I can't remember who's going to be replaced. But the 24, as well is going to be replaced this weekend as well. I can't remember who he's getting replaced by. I might be getting it wrong altogether, quite frankly, because I mean it's someone. There was definitely some clashes going on.
Alex Bowman will miss a playoff race as well.
Alex Bowman, yeah, that was probably the one.
Noah Gregerson will fill in.
Yeah, Alex Bowman. Sorry, apologies, my bad. Alex Bowman was the one that's going to be missing the race. Noah Gregerson's going to be filling in as well. But yeah, the collision between William Byron on the track and Denny Hamlin. Byron, I believe, got 35 points deducted off his points tally in the playoff standings as well for that collision. and he failed post-qualifying inspection yesterday. Today actually. So he actually is going to be starting from the rear of the field actually as well. So that's some news there. Let me go through the standings actually, because just to tell you about the situation going to Talladega this weekend. I think it's important to point out what's going on here. So at the moment, there's 12 drivers in it at the moment, and Joey Logano is the one that's leading at the moment, 3071 to Ross Chastain is 359. Kyle Larson is third, Blaney fourth, Hamlin fifth, Suarez sixth, Chase at seventh, Briscoe is eighth. They are the top eight. They are safe if it finished like this going to the next round. Austin Cindric, William Byron, Christopher and as I said, Alex Bowman are all on the chopping block. As you know, Charlie, Alex Bowman's out, so I don't think he's going to progress into the next round for this weekend. I think he's going to be given an outie for this one, I'm afraid. Like Christopher Bell, William Byron, Austin Cindric, all on the chopping block. Obviously, it doesn't help that William Byron got his point penalty after deliberately taking out Denny Hamlin as well in Texas. But as you said, on the side of Texas, Charlie, it was indeed Tyler Reddick that won the race that weekend as well. Ahead of Joe Logano in second, Justin Hayes third, Blaney fourth, Chase Briscoe fifth, Eric Jones sixth, William Byron seventh. Obviously got penalised after the race. Keselowski eighth, Carl Larson ninth, and Denny Hamlin in 10th position as well. Now, the qualifying happened today with Christopher Bell on the pole position ahead of Carl Larson, with Hamlin third, Almirola fourth, good qualifying for him, Chase Briscoe fifth, Chastain sixth, Noah Gregson's a good qualifying seventh, replacing obviously Alex Bowman. Reddick was eighth, William Byron ninth, and Ty Gibbs in 10th position as well. So that is the race is at tomorrow at 2 p.m. UK time. The Xfinity race is ongoing on my screen right now. Austin Hill is the lead on lap 17 of the race. That race is just going on right now. And the Camping World Truck Series came to a dramatic end earlier as well, with Matt DiBenedetto winning the race with a last lap crash that meant he was ahead before the caution dropped, and he finished ahead of Ben Rhodes in second as well. Lots of action over that race as well. So obviously we've got NASCAR this weekend at Talladega. Next weekend, it's the turn of Charlotte Motor Speedway on the road course.
The Charlotte Roval is back. I love it. This is one of my favourite NASCAR circuits, actually.
And I think it's going to be the final. I think it's correct. It's the final round of the round of 12 as well. So there will be after, and when we get to Roval, there will be 12 will go to 8, and there will be 8 left after Roval. The Xfinity Series as well is also racing next weekend as well at Charlotte.
Yep, on the Roval course. Yep.
And the Truck Series is not going to be back in action now until 3 weeks' time. They have now got 2 races to go, and their next race is at Miami on the 22nd October.
Yeah, it's called the Baptist Health 200 for the Camping World Truck Series race.
Yeah.
Plenty of motorsport news as well coming up. And also, we're going to do the quick update of the Premier League football results, because someone I know apparently wanted me to do them. So let's get them up now. One of my uncles promised to let me do the results.
Yeah.
Let's get them up quickly now. We're going to go through the Premier League results whilst we're here today. And boy, do we have a lot. Arsenal 3, Tottenham 1, Liverpool and Brighton was a 3-3 draw. Newcastle 4, Fulham 1, Everton 2, Southampton 1, Chelsea 2, Crystal Palace 1, and Bournemouth and Brentford was a goalless. And in the later kickoff, West Ham 2, Wolves 0. Is that what you make to the football results?
Yeah, some quite critical results in there. North London, first of all, North London derby. North London is now red. Officially today. Arsenal with a big 3-1 victory as well. As you can see, Tottenham got a red card with Emerson Royale using his studs, unfortunately, to get himself a nice little red card. Liverpool being held to a 3-3 draw against Brighton. It's not going plain sailingly well for Liverpool this season, I don't think, at the moment. Very slow and sloppy start to the season as well. Not much wins, and they need to pick up their form quite quickly. Fulham got annihilated today at Newcastle 4-1. I mean, that was a pretty much, once the red card comes out, it's pretty much a straightforward result. Everton getting their winning form back under over 2-1 victory against Southampton. Crystal Palace losing against Chelsea 2-1. This is Graham Potter's second game in charge as well. A Premier League game, should I say. 2-1 victory against Crystal Palace as well. Important win there. Bournemouth for Brentford came to a goalless draw. And first win of the season, I think this is the first home win of the season. It might well be the first win of the season, actually. It's the second win of the season for West Ham, the first home win of the season with a 2-0 win over Wolves. Tomorrow's match is big one. Manchester derby of City and United at 2 p.m. Leeds v Villa, another derby at 4:30. And then Monday, struggling Leicester and Nottingham Forest take off against each other. Could well be a relegation 3-pointer, that one. A sacking 3-pointer one, depending on what's happening as well on that one as well. And then there's obviously Champions League action in the midweek as well. Liverpool v Rangers is going to be the key fixture on the Tuesday. AC Milan, Chelsea on the Wednesday, just point out key fixtures there as well. And then Premier League is going to return next weekend as well, with fixtures including Arsenal v Liverpool on the Sunday next week, Everton United, Chelsea Wolves, City and Southampton. There'll be some key games next week as well.
Yeah, that's all the latest Premier League results. We'll keep you updated on the show regarding fixtures next week. Now it's time for Charlie's good news segment. Well, let's talk about this now. Local news is the theme of today. And one of the local news stories is that popular cheese-based eatery has just relaunched. Yes, this is a local news story today that I'm reporting on. The Lee Broadway cheese-based eatery relaunches with top customer reviews. It's already a big hit. It's called Great. The House of Cheese in Lee offers a wide range of treats and meals such as a mac and cheese toasties, and much more. Co-owners Nick Jones and Gabriel Tonzio said it went very well today and the customers have been very happy what's on offer. Miss Jones said it was all going well. The feedback with them was busy this morning and the customers were very happy. This here was previously, and we've been taken over, and some of the favourites have been added, a few bites as well. As the name implies, it's pretty much all cheese related. There's cheese toasties, free blend cheese, got mac and cheese with 5 blends of cheese, got cheese on toast, and also plenty of that as well. They also posted something on their Facebook today as well. It's a very important thing. We're seeing a lot of businesses like cheese eateries becoming very important, and this place has been opening and has relaunched with rave reviews. How exciting is that for sure? I wonder if a lot of people will love cheese going forward in the months ahead. And also another news story that I'm going to mention as well. Good news, of course. We don't do bad news. There's a huge job spare coming to London Stansted Airport with hosting a third major jobs fair 2022 as they prepare for a busy Christmas in 2023. It's going to take place next Tuesday in preparation for Christmas. There'll be 25 companies based at the airport who are recruiting for more than 500 positions in a variety of roles. This include cabin crew, retail managers, engineers, chefs, drivers, check-in agents, and customer service representatives. These jobs will be working under some huge businesses such as Ryanair, Titan Airways, Border Force, Jet2, World Duty Free, HMS Host, National Express, and London Stansted. The airport has recruited more than 300 people in security operations since January, while airlines, ground handlers, and retailers have also recruited hundreds of new staff. So that is Charlie's good news this week. Zach, what do you make to a couple of news stories I mentioned about there?
Yeah, good news about her hiring spree. Let's just say that. I mean, anything that has got a bigger hiring spree is very much welcome. If you want to go and work there, go ahead and try and get your applications in, your CVs, whatever. See if you're good enough to get into the roles that you need to do as well. Make the aim and points of it. Get yourself a good job. It's very crucial. But yeah, most importantly as well, good to see expansion happening there as well.
Yes, very, very important. As I said, hiring, I think it's very, very important we get people into the world of work. And maybe if your aviation is an industry you want to go in, by the way, this industry was hit so hard by the coronavirus pandemic that hiring is now coming on. Aviation industry is coming back strong. Hopefully very soon, guys, in the coming months, I'll be booking another holiday abroad. Let's hope so. Moving on now to the papers. Now, this is your national newspaper headlines talking all things newspapers. Yes, I'm pretty sure we have that as well. By the way, guys, we've also had some news in tonight. Just before we do papers, Boy George has officially signed for I'm a Celebrity. It's been announced tonight that Boy George has become one of the first celebrities rumoured to be going in the I'm a Celeb camp. So, yeah, I've just had that through earlier on. Keep you updated on that news as well. Now it's time for the papers. And not many of them have been released at the moment. We'll probably get more in later. So let's go through the current papers that are now already in. And the Observer page, I saw this earlier, sounds pretty revolting to me for a Conservative reader. Voters abandon Tories as faith in the economic competence dies as well. Are some people not happy with Liz Truss's tax cuts or the fact that the Bank of England has had to intervene? The Sunday Express claims an exclusive, I will do whatever it takes to get Britain moving, also strictly training as well. And a Sunday Express, Olivia Mann on murder charge, breakthrough in a 6-week manhunt after a girl 9 was shot in her own home just earlier this year. The Daily Star goes, Les Dawson's goes to rip my trousers. Oh,
lovely.
Maybe
headline we need.
Maybe they've got maybe someone's trousers have got pockets that have been ripped open on them. Comic Heroes Possessed Me, sound impressionist played you on the stage.
Hang on a minute, didn't we have a ghost story from the Daily Star last week as well?
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. We had a ghost story from the Daily Star. So it's quite a coincidence that once we get to the papers today, we do a ghost story. Oh, well, never mind. Yeah, so let's go through it. Only the 3 papers at the moment. I'll go through some of yesterday's later on, the fact that we don't have any 3 papers. We only have only 3 papers. Let's start with the Observer, today's one. Voters abandon Tories as face in economic competence dives. Who knew, Charlie? Let's just start with this. Who knew that the Conservatives would be incompetent on the economy? You know, going back to 2010, when they were trusted to get out of the mess of recession at the time, and they were viewed as a credible fiscal responsibility party, it's quite incredible they've gone from, you know, low spend, low tax, small state conservative to a low state conservative, but low tax, but higher borrowing and higher interest rates and lots of spending conservatives. It's quite incredible that in a whole week they've managed to upset the Bank of England, they've managed to upset the IMF, they've managed to not even to publish an OBS forecast, which is not due until November. And yet, as well, the markets are going doolally. The Chancellor seems only interested in his rich donors and hedge funders. And, you know, it's having a real-term effect. People remember the austerity days. You've got to remember this. People remember the austerity days very well. They might have accepted that back then, but they certainly do not accept it right now. It is an attack line that is going to be used effectively as well. I think about 70% in this poll say that they do not trust the Conservatives on the economy. That is.
What about rail strikes?
Yeah, rail strikes have happened today. Should point that out as well. They're happening all week, by the way. Quite interesting, the Conservative Party conference this week in Birmingham, and some of the routes are being affected up to there as well. There's strikes all the way up there as well. So maybe a tactical decision to put their strikes on the weeks of the Conservative Party conference. Maybe saying something as well. But yeah, it's lots happening there. Obviously, we'll talk about it next week as well. But the main story out the Observer out this is the voters think the Tories suck on the economy, which is one way to win, and the way to win an election is to be competent on the economy. They don't think they're competent on the economy at the moment, the public, beyond the Conservatives. That's quite something. And I think it's extraordinary that they even say that in this day and age. It's quite something as well. So let's go to the Daily Express now. They're leading with obviously they've got Liz Truss at the top. They've got an exclusive with her. By the way, Liz Truss is on Laura Kuenssberg's on Sunday tomorrow. By the way, at 8:30. If you want to watch that, the London Marathon is also tomorrow, so it's on a little bit earlier as well. But yeah, so Liz Truss is on Laura Kuenssberg tomorrow. Expect another car crash interview. Now, who knows what? But the Daily Express lead with this one. Liverpool Crowell, you remember the 9-year-old that was murdered in Liverpool? Quite a very brutal and shocking murder, actually, as well. They have arrested a 34-year-old today. This is what leading the Sunday Express. They have arrested a 34-year-old on murder charges as well. It's a man. Thomas Cashman, 34, has been charged with the attempted murder of Louis' mother, Cheryl Coble, and Joseph New as well. So there's been three possible, one murder and 2 attempted murders as well. This is 6 weeks of investigations that resulted in a murder charge. I have to say, it took a long time in the making, but they finally obviously found somebody that's the murderer of this as well in Liverpool, who after that shocking murder as well. It's quite something. It took 6 weeks to done that as well. Let's do the Daily Star because they're doing another ghost story this week. We've talked about one ghost story last week, and this week they're doing a very creepy ghost story that apparently Les Dawson's goat ripped off a person's trousers. An impressionist, John Culshaw, says Les Denton's blankety pranked him from beyond the grave, ripping a hole in his trousers as he portrayed the telly legend. Okay. Well, I don't know how to react to that one, really. There really must be a ghost. Have they got their secret scissors out, going around cutting the trousers up? That is really quite eye-popping scene that I don't really wish to imagine anyway. Yeah, that's pretty bad. Let's go through some of the other papers because we haven't really got much papers out at the moment. Actually, I'm going to refresh the page just to see if anything else.
The Independent and the Telegraph have been released.
Yes. So let's start with the Telegraph. Actually, they're going with Liz Truss as well. She's got an interview that says only my plan for growth will reverse UK slow decline. Okay, right. Yeah. So she's obviously done an interview with the Telegraph. Talking about growth, obviously, it seems to be about the main theme of the Conservative at the moment is growth. At the moment, as well. But like I said, Charlie, before, growth is all good, but it's the way you deliver a growth, and that's the most important thing. And her plan simply is not credible at all. It feels like it goes to his top Tory friends rather than the whole community. Like I said before, you cannot grow the economy by a bunch of rich people, by like say 150 richest people in the world. You have to have an economy that grows for the lowest down to the top up. Everyone's got to be involved in growing the economy, not just a few bunch of people as well. And this plan, I don't think, is credible at all in any ways as well. And the Independent goes for Tories tell Truss, you turn now or face rebellion. Most of the rebellion, as far as I understand, Charlie, is on the 45p tax reduction at the top, the top 1%, which could save around £50,000 for an average wealthy person. There is a lot of concern on the Tory backbenchers, and I think Lewis Goodall from LBC was reporting that some Tory MPs are going to potentially work with Labour MPs to strike down parts of the finance bill, which is coming next year, to basically strike down a few things in there and overturn some of the elements of Truss's budget. That is interesting, and there's also reports this week that Labour may get out one of their favourite little parliamentary tools, a humble address, to be able to, force publication of the provisional OBR document for the upcoming financial forecast as well. So yeah, there's a lot of, with whilst Liz Truss, Kwasi Kwarteng are in their own world thinking everything's going to be okay and it's the only path, there is a lot of disquiet within Conservative Party ranks, including the backbenchers, on the economic plan so far, Charlie. That and it's very clear to me that there is currently a very divided party with the direction they're going in and knowing what to do as well. So that's the independent front page, and we've done the Telegraph, we've done the Zerba. The Mail, the Sunday Mail has just come in as well. They've gone for Margaret Ferry. Remember this person who used to break COVID rules, most famously taking a train whilst having COVID, as well. The MP who put lives travelling at risk by train has spent thousands of pounds on expensive flights to get to Westminster. Yes, seriously, spending thousands of pounds on expensive flying to Westminster instead of taking the train. As well, ex-SMPs, Mark Fair, convicted of reckless conduct last month, has billed the taxpayer for executive trips worth a whopping £333. I think it says on there at the moment. It's a bit blurry, bit not clear on that as well. But she has been wasting taxpayer money on unnecessary flights. I have to say, if this was a Tory MP, they'll be absolutely slaughtered. If we at the left would slaughter them quite rightly. In fact, this is an SNP MP doing this sort of thing is no help to them. I think they're just as pathetic as well. So yeah, not a good look for Margaret Ferret as well. And that, I think, given all that, concludes the roundup of the Sunday papers so far, Charlie.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that is pretty interesting paper around there. We'll be back again next week reviewing more of the papers. Time now for the Great British Stars and Red Devils of the week. And I'm going to start with my nominations this week. Well, I'm going to give it, the Great British Star goes to the rescuers from Hurricane Ian that get the nomination. And also the Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis, for his response. I think we couldn't have done it without him. And I think it will deserve him a 2024 presidential run. I really hope as well. I really want to say that he has been a man on a mission to get Florida out of this mess. Because if you also don't remember, it has been a horrible time for them. And I really think that it certainly was very, very interesting as well. Now, also as well, I'm going to give another shout out to the Great British Star this week, which is going to be from Disney, because I really love this, guys, because Figment is going to get his own movie. If you don't know Figment, Figment is going to get his own film from this beloved Epcot star. You might have known him on Journey to Imagination. I've been on that attraction very before with Figment. The Disney character Figment's going to get his own film featuring a treatment from all these actors here. The article's frozen. Sorry. But yeah, no, he's going to have his own movie starring Steph Rogen, I believe, is Dan Hernandez are all going to be starring in a Figment film. And I have to say, congratulations to Disney for getting a new Figment film. I think it's going to be very interesting indeed. So I hope as well they're doing well. They've also just recently started selling Figment popcorn over there, which is interesting indeed. Now on to my Red Devils of the week. Two very easy nominations. Not the Italian Prime Minister, for a start. I know a lot of people have been saying that. Giorgia Meloni, she doesn't get a nomination as well. But moving on to my nominations for the Great Britain, the Red Devil now. And Rupert Hutt gets a nomination for the racist comments about Kwasi Kwarteng, the Chancellor. Just want to say that Labour done the right thing and booted her out of the party immediately and had the whip suspended immediately. I have to say, I think clearly they done the right decision there. And my other nomination goes to Vladimir Putin of Russia for illegally annexing the 15% of Ukrainian territory. That is actually the biggest land grab by any world leader since the Second World War. Would you believe it? I mean, that's a huge undertaking, but it's the wrong way. It is a step towards dictatorship. It's a big step towards infinity for him, trust me. Zach, what are your nominations this week for the Stars and the Red Devils?
Oh, Stars and Red Devils. Right, the Stars this week. Let's start with the obvious ones. I'll give it to the Ukrainian army for obviously taking Liman. That's very important for them. It's strategically important as well. Very, 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 very big win for them in terms of getting Liman City back in Luhansk as well. I'll give it to the all the volunteers who've worked in Florida over the past week and helped out the response and helping people get out of their flooded homes as well. That's one of them as well. So I'll give it to the people of Florida and the Russian army, and I'll continue to give another nomination to the ladies, the females, the women of Iran for continuing to stand up to their government as well against oppressive regimes as well. There's a great job there as well, standing up for their rights and their freedoms as well. The Red Devils this week. I'm going to give it to both Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng for crashing the economy, the markets, the pound, the Bank of England, and the IMF as well. Well done to well done for getting you into trouble with them. You've totally screwed up. It's incredible how tone deaf they are with their budget and the reaction to that as well. It's been simply stunning to see the reaction as well. It's been an absolute ridiculous decision what they've done this week as well. So actually, that's my Red Devil certainly for this week. Liz Truss and Kwasi Kwarteng get the Red Devil certainly as well. Rupert Huck you can add in there as well for her silly comment on Kwasi Kwarteng as well. And it's a bit ridiculous the comments that she made. She's rightfully been suspended, you said, but just unnecessary for what's been a good Labour conference this week as well. But yeah, so that's my Red Devils of this week. The British Stars go to obviously people who are protesters of Iran, the volunteers in Florida, and the Ukrainian army as well. Red Devils go to Rupert Huck and the Prime Minister and the Chancellor.
Yeah, and I think definitely the Red Devil of the week for me is going to be the Vladimir Putin of Russia. Clearly, thinking himself as patriotic. As well. Now, Zach, before you go, what have you made so far of the new appointment to Italy, Giorgia Meloni?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Obviously, she's been linked to the far right and all that sort of thing as well. One of the things, my jury's out on this one because I don't really know a lot about her, but it doesn't look promising that Italy's going to go back to a right-wing, quite a fascist coalition of parties. Rather unfortunate. As well. Keep an eye out this week, I have to say as well. Keep an eye out this week for the Brazilian elections because, as you may have noticed, Jair Bolsonaro is up for re-election this Sunday. First round of voting takes place there. He is up against a former president, actually, as well. It's Lula's Inácio Lula da Silva. The former president is actually running again as part of the Workers' Party. He's candidate on the left, Bolsonaro's on the right. First round of voting this weekend. If Lula, no candidate gets over 50%, then we go to runoff on the 30th of October. Lulu Lula da Silva is the favourite so far to win it, but who knows? And let's see.
Yeah. Is that to do with the fact that is going to be to do with Bolsonaro's COVID response, or the fact that he championed against lockdowns, or is it to do with the fact that they think their left-wing candidate's more popular?
Oh, no, I think it's more the fact there's a lot of factors going in Brazil at the moment, Charlie, but there's a divisive election going on there. That's happening tomorrow. And we'll find out all the results of it as well.
Yeah, it'd be very interesting. Please tune into an earlier podcast that me and Zach done where we spoke about Jair Bolsonaro's COVID-19 response in Brazil. Okay, very interesting indeed. Thank you so much for watching the Charlie Tolhurst show tonight, live on YouTube. I've been your presenter, Charlie Tolhurst, and we'll do it all again next week. Thank you for listening, everyone. Take care, and good night.